It's 10 games to go, 4-point gap, one position to play for, with one team standing in their way. It's the chase. The chase is on.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom. We're the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro matchday chatter in a podcast. And the chase is on. Another win for Boro. 46 goals in 21 games under Michael Carrick. He's got a 71.5 win percent rate as Boro boss, and Boro 4 points off the top two again. But we have played the same games now, so it is a bit more exciting. But guys, another win on the road at the Swansea.com stadium. I appreciate that is a very creative name. But how are you feeling in 4 words? Because I want to go 4 words because it's 4 points again. Dana Malt, how are you feeling in 4 words?
Don't wake me up is what I'm going to say, because it just feels like I'm in a lucid dream, to be honest. It's just very good. I tweeted yesterday that this is the best Boro team that I've ever seen, and I was very appreciative of the replies saying, well, what about the Hasselbank era and, the halcyon days of UEFA Cup run? And I missed that. So this is the best Boro team that I've seen, and it's better than the best of Wilder Ball last season, in my opinion, and I won't let it get twisted. I think it was very good. The highs were incredibly high last season, but I think this has superseded it. We're just very good. We're very, very good, and we've got a genuine chance of getting second, which is beyond anything that I thought. And to be honest, I've said it in previous podcasts, I think belief and confidence is a really big thing in football, and when you are riding that belief, it can take you quite far. Look at Forest last season. I think they're quite an overused example, but the position that Chris Hughton left them in, I don't think anybody from a Forest persuasion would have thought that they would go up, and they went up. So I think they were riding that crest of a wave, the very confident wave, and I think Boro could do that. So yeah, don't wake me up.
That's a great song as well.
It is.
So all I could think was that just like the back of my head, I was like, oh my god, what a great tune. Tom, how are you feeling in 4 words?
I think my 4 words are the belief is growing. Just really starting to think that maybe we can do it now. I don't want to go all in with my confidence and say, yeah, we're definitely going to do it because it's Boro, and for everything good that's happened so far, you get too carried away and typical Boro kicks in. But it really doesn't feel like that has been the case this season. I think there were a lot of points last season and in previous seasons where we'd get up to 6th and then we couldn't go any further. We'd just drop back down and go back up to 6th and then bottle it again. And, waiting for it when we first got to the playoffs this season, it never happened. And it's mad to think now that we're pretty much relying on Sunderland to do us a favour on Wednesday. Obviously, we need to sort out our own results as well. But I think the way the games fall, if we beat Stoke on Tuesday, the pressure's mounted on Sheffield United even further on Wednesday. If they fail to beat Sunderland, then, if as long as we do our jobs against Preston, we could be going into the international break in second. And, looking at where we were, where Wilder left us and when Carrick came in, yeah, that's not something could have ever seen happening. I remember we were talking on here saying, if someone offered you 15th, would you take it? I think we were saying we might get playoffs or something like that, but no one was ever seriously thinking automatics when Carrick came in, and now it's a possibility, and that narrative's there that we are the main chasing team for second place.
Yeah, the turnaround that Boro have had is incredible, and no one expected. You're right, Tom. No one expected that we were going to be anywhere near where we are, and it's just amazing. Isn't it? I think my 4 words are: we are very fun. I enjoy watching us, and I think probably the biggest compliment I think a fan can give any team is that they're just really fun to watch, and your enjoyment is there. It's weird that football is actually meant to be enjoyed when you go, and not like heartbreaking and frustrating when your team's not playing well. But just really fun. Like everything that we do going forward is exciting. It's fluid. It's just perfect for the division at the moment. And for credit to Matt Carrick, man. Like I know he's done a lot of great work on training ground, well as coach and staff have as well. But the whole psychological side of the game and how we're playing at the moment, it just feels like confidence wise, when you do feel a bit like invincible, like the sky's the limit, and I think it just shows really how important it is in the game that if you have a bit of confidence about your team and it's clicking, God, you can take on the world in football, and it doesn't matter what division you're in, you can put up a good fight against anyone, and it shows in cup games. But let's chat about the Swansea game, because Boro had to come behind yet again to get a result, and it was a bit of a weird game because I thought Boro played quite well in the first half and not as well in the second half, but we managed to score 3 in the second half and going behind at the break. Dana, how would you assess the performance against Swansea?
I think it was a game where trust and patience was quite important, because we were dominant in that first half. Our possession percentage didn't dip below 60 the whole half. And it felt like we were probing. And I wrote in my notes, 13 minutes. Feels like Boro going to score here. 15 minutes. Goal. 1-0 Swansea. And I mean, it was rather fortuitous the way that the opportunity presented itself to Joel Boro, because it's Ryan Manning's cross that ricochets off Tommy Smith's arse. So they got lucky the way that the opportunity fell to him. It's a good instinctive finish, I will say. But I think in the first half, I noticed we were playing a lot down that right-hand side. And when I bring up the touch map after the game, there was a lot of play down our right. Tommy Smith had the most touches of anyone from a Boro persuasion. In fact, anybody in the whole game in the whole half from both teams in that first half was 75. And then Riley McGree had 41. So for me, I thought we were a little bit predictable in that first half when it came to that right-hand side, because I think you could tell that Riley McGree isn't comfortable on his right foot. It's not his stronger foot, and very much his weaker foot. We've seen that. So he will want to cut inside and get back onto that stronger left. And I just feel like in terms of quickening the tempo of the game, we weren't lethargically slow, I will say that, but we were predictable, because it was very obvious what Riley McGree was going to do when he was out wide. He was going to cut in central. And we do see that with Riley McGree. We do. But I think a lot of the time he will cut inside before he's got the ball rather than cut inside when he's on it. So I just thought it was maybe a little bit, just that little tiny bit. We always talk about 1%s on this podcast, don't we? It was just that 1% slower. And in that second half, they had a lot less touches, the two of them, Tommy Smith and Riley McGree. Tommy Smith had 18 and Riley McGree had even less with 14. And you see the concentration of touches more predominantly on the left-hand side in that second half. And to be honest, between Ryan Giles and Aaron Ramsey, they didn't have a whole lot more touches in that second half compared to their first half. But what I did notice in that first 45 minutes from both sides is that the left-hand side was quite opportunistic. Ryan Manning and Ryan Giles had a lot of space to be able to operate. That's why we saw the first goal that Swansea scored, the opener. Ryan Manning had a lot of space to be able to play that cross. Yes, it does take a nick off Tommy Smith's backside and it's fortuitous. But then I looked at Ryan Giles on our left-hand side. I just don't think we were getting the ball to him quick enough. Whereas I think in that second half, I think we were a lot quicker getting the ball to those left-hand spaces. And we were a lot more effective at utilising the strengths of both Ryan Giles and Aaron Ramsey. And then when we got that equaliser, which in itself was rather lucky because I thought Aaron Ramsey had overplayed it. It was a fantastic ball from Riley McGree to set him free. The right ball, the right type of pass. And he was bearing down a goal, wasn't he? And it felt like he'd overplayed it. He tried to pass to Cameron Archer, who'd made a run into the box. And it ricochets off Sorinola back into his path, stabs it into the back of the net. And then bang, bang, Cameron Archer scores, gets the good old knee slide and unleashes his ball. And then Chirapom dispatches a very good penalty. The first probably good penalty we've seen from Chirapom this season. So yeah, it was one where Boro had to be patient. They had to trust themselves, but we were effective in the moments that mattered. I don't think we were great. I don't think we were anywhere near our best, but we were effective, and we needed to be. And we got the deserved 3 points in the end.
Yeah, and just on that first goal, then I feel like if Dyke Steele was there and hit his ass cheeks, that's going for a throw in any day of the week. It's like it's a steel block, isn't it? But no, I think you're right. Then we had to come from behind, and it was a really solid performance from us. But Tom, in that first half, I just want to go back to that and just say it kind of felt like one of those days a little bit, because that first 13 minutes, you're dominating with the ball against the side who has the highest amount of possession in the championship. And then we go behind. But how do you think we were able to turn the game around in the second half?
I think it's just a common theme now where if we're in this position, we go into half time and we can always have the confidence that we're going to come out second half playing better. Or in this case, I would say with the slight improvements being made to be able to allow us to score, because I don't think we were particularly bad first half. I did think Swansea's goal kind of came against the run of play. Kind of similar to what Dana said, where she's like, in the notes, Boro probing, probably going to score soon, and then it goes down the other end and Swansea score. But it did seem in that first 15 minutes that we were getting forwards, and it was maybe just the last pass was letting us down in some cases, and decision making just wasn't 100% where we needed it to be. But it never looked like Swansea were absolutely outplaying us or anything like that. The worry for me when they went one goal up was that they might just sit back and try and defend that. But thankfully, they're a team that tries to play football and kind of kept going. One thing I did pick up on when I was watching it, which I thought was a mistake on Swansea's side, and I'm not sure if it was an injury that led to it, but Ollie Cooper going off at half time.
I was just going to mention that.
Felt like he was one of their best players, if not fully their best player in the first half. And when they came back out for the second half and they're taking him off and put Nutcham on, I was looking at that sub and thinking, I can't understand why they've done it. And also, every time that I have seen Nutcham, he's never looked that great considering where he's came from. Played at a really good level. So I feel like that was a point where tactically Swansea might have got it a bit wrong, but all it required from our side, I think Carrick said that in his post-match as well, that he didn't actually have to say much to the team because he knew the way we were going was on the right track. We just needed a few tweaks, concentrate the play elsewhere from the right-hand side, and it was going to come second half.
Why do you think, Tom, that we have those games, though, in terms of, and it's been quite a common theme sometimes, and where we have maybe a slower first half and then we're really good in the second half, or vice versa? Why do you think those type of things happen?
I'm not sure, and to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily say yesterday was a slower first half. Like I say, I thought we were the better team, even like until they scored, and I think even afterwards, Swansea had a little spell, but as Dana said earlier, like our possession never dipped under 60. Obviously, that's not the only key metric. Possession doesn't win you games, but we were doing pretty well. We were playing the right way, and if we can't continue to play that way, and there wasn't a half time, I'm sure we probably would have scored. But I do think that this is probably where the coaching element comes into it rather than the management element of the system we have at the moment. I think you look at our coaching team and they're all pretty well renowned as good coaches. You should be able to go into halftime and see areas of the game where we can improve, and it's that coaching element where you can just say, all right, if you do this instead, then things might work out a bit better for us. And I feel like that as a scenario at half time is maybe better than, say, a manager just going in there and shouting and bawling at the team and you've got to die for 3 points and stuff like that. I think you take that coaching element into it and just treat the players that way and just be like, look, mate, you're doing all right, but if you do this, we could be better, and you do this, we could unlock the defence. I think that's probably the right approach to be taken with this group of players at the moment, and I think when we see those improved second half displays, it wouldn't surprise me if that's what's going on in the dressing room.
I think it's important to note that we're not a perfect team. So even from the first minute to the 90th minute and added time, we're not going to have a perfect game. So we are going to have spells where we are a little bit scrappy. And I did think that the start of the second half, Boro weren't particularly great. And I made a note of it that I don't think Boro have started this second half very well. And I did say to you, actually, because obviously it was 1-0 at that point, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised, or this will be 2-0 before you know it, because it just felt like we weren't, I wouldn't say we were necessarily losing those duels, but we weren't quick with them or quick to them. And that's why I think the start of the second half became a little bit scrappy. But as I said, we're not going to be a perfect team. It's you might think Boro are perfect right now because we're enjoying a really good run of form, even despite the defeat against West Brom. But we're not a complete team yet, which is scary to think about because it feels like we are so good right now, but we can get even better. And that is maybe something that we do need to potentially improve on. Although because we are such a good goal scoring team, I think these slow starts for me aren't so much of an issue
Yeah,
yet.
and well, that's it. Like, I mean, you're not always going to have 100% of possession, and it's not always going to be your way. And obviously, I feel like game state kind of plays a part in that because you could have an injury at a certain point. You could have some saw someone going off. You could have a red card, a yellow card, or in Bora's case, they just need a goal and then they get another one fairly quickly. But Dana, do you think, like, once Bora scored, do you think that we were going to go on and win the game? And how interesting is it, by the way, that every time we get one when we're going behind, we're getting a second one fairly quickly as well?
Yeah, it's a very good trait for us to have. And to be honest, I know I mentioned there that I wouldn't have been surprised if Swansea made it 2-0, just because of the again, game state, the way that the game was started in that second half. I still thought that we would win the game even 1-0 down, just because their goal did come against the run of play. And I didn't. Swansea have got a good attack. Let's not forget that. But their defence is incredibly weak. And they put themselves into trouble a few times, playing quite a high line and then giving the ball away. And we looked good on the turnover. There was a few moments prior to their goal where Aaron Ramsey was stealing it quite high up the pitch and we were springing. And it was just as Tom kind of alluded to, that final little bit, the final pass just wasn't there for us in that first half. But I was confident based on what I saw in that first 45 minutes that even a goal down, we were going to win that game. And then obviously when you score that equaliser, I think Ryan Giles said it in his post-match that this team almost gets a second wind and you can see the hunger in them. I will say that. And it's very good to point this out because you mentioned it last week, Johnny, about Marcus Force's reaction to putting that fifth goal in. Now, my reaction in my seat there was, oh, we want a sixth here. That's why he's going, running back to the centre circle. I could be, and we could be completely wrong there. It could just be the fifth goal of the game. Usually when there's a high scoring game there, the more goals that you score, the less, or the more subdued and the less enthusiastic the celebrations become. But I can sense the hunger in this team. And I think we've seen it the past two games in particular, that when we do get that little advantage there where we have the equaliser, we're back into the game, you can sense that their tails are up, they're confident, and that they want to basically bury the opposition. And I sense their hunger in scoring a goal. I sense their hunger in scoring another. And I sense their hunger to win games and chase down Sheffield United, which is really, really fantastic to see. So, yeah, to be honest, as a fan, I've been brought up rather pessimistically supporting Middlesbrough. So always at the back of my mind, there's that slight little niggling narrative of we're going to lose. But I will say it's been suppressed a lot under Michael Carrick because I just am more confident than not. So it'll always be there, but it's very silent at the moment, which is, hopefully that can continue. But yeah, I did think we were going to win, even at 1-0 down.
Yeah, and to be honest, there's a couple of things that you were saying there, Dee, around or having the confidence to get another one. It just shows like a relentless mentality, really. I think the relentlessness of how you want to play and how you want to not just put games to bed, but you want to keep going and keep progressing and keep getting better and showing that like you aren't perfect in the changing room, but also there's not a perfect game. You've just got to keep chipping away. It's like a big ice block, isn't it? Where you're trying to create a sculpture. That's kind of, you just got to keep going that way. But in terms of like half times as well, like we were saying there, Tom, around saying, we maybe we'll do this and we can unlock that. I feel like also with Carrick, I feel like he's going to change room at half time and probably imposing the question on the players and just saying like, well, what do you think we can do? You know, why don't you do that? Like, I think when you are coaching sometimes and you have like a group like that who have a bit of like a leadership trait, I think sometimes you always ask them the question because it helps them feel a bit more in control and they don't like getting told. Essentially, you don't like getting told what to do. So when you impose the question on someone, they feel like they're more in charge of the situation rather than the coach telling them. So I feel like sometimes with that, we've got really good quality in the changing room with coaches, but also I feel like he kind of knows when to say something and when not to say something, because I feel like the group there knew that they were going to win the game yesterday, but it was just when going behind, when can we change that? And I feel that's what's been really good about us at the moment. But in terms of like that relentless nature, I've been seeing from the group, like Aaron Ramsey as well, he's continuously trying to improve. And also, he's not taking enough for answer. He's kind of getting behind. He's always trying to create chances. But it was another goal from yesterday, Tom. 3-2 for him now. But what do you think's making him stand out in a Boro shirt? Because I think there was a couple of people going, like and Aaron over him. You know, he had that injury at Norwich. He's came out, he's got into the side now, and he's really progressing well. But what do you think's been his standout so far?
I think he just looks really confident whenever he's on the ball, and that seems to be growing with every game. Obviously, I was at Sheffield United away when he came on as a sub for the first time, and I was pretty much in line with the side he was playing on that night, and some of the one-touch football he was playing was fantastic. And you're just thinking, as soon as he hits full speed, like he's going to be some player. And I think just we have changed system a little bit, as I mentioned on last week's pod, to allow him and McGree to kind of be them kind of roaming playmakers just behind the strikers. And it's a little bit different to having Force on the right, where he's been able to run at defenders. He's incorporated them step overs into his game, which are fantastic to see every time. And he's quite direct, but I think Ramsey and McGree are working quite well in that position, and I would say Ramsey is being quite direct on the ball as well. Like I say, he seems really confident, and I think one of the main things you can see that in is desire to run at players and look to create something. I think the fact that he's got Cameron Archer there as well is helping at times, because them two do tend to link up quite a bit, but. No, I think there were times yesterday where it'd be running at the defenders and keeping hold of the ball really well in terms of dribbling, but also by doing that, it's allowing more people to get forward, and eventually there will be something on where he can create. But the last couple of games, he's just looked extremely positive. He's got goals, and his confidence must be sky high after that, because I think you can see it in his play. I think it's the same way you can see the confidence is sky high for Akpom this season. I mean that hasn't seemed to stop for Akpom. He still seems that good, but I think the confidence of coming back after an injury and doing well straight away and fitting into this system, like I say, I think that's the biggest thing for Ramsey, and really hope it continues.
On Akpom, did you see that little Megs that he did on Latibordio, where he scooped the ball through him on the byline? I was like, Christ. And then obviously he hit the side net, and I was like, oh, if only that went in. That just shows it, doesn't it, Tom, that we're such a confident team as a collective and as individuals as well.
Absolutely.
Do you think that, though, like the mental aspects of the sport then are probably arguably just as important as the physical side then, Dana?
Yeah, definitely. And when Akpom was talking to Bernie Slaven earlier this week, I was watching the video on YouTube, and I said to you, I'd love Akpom on this pod just to pick his brains on the mental side of this redemption arc, because I think not only in football but in life in general. You touched on it at the beginning of the pod, Johnny, that when you have confidence, then you can basically conquer anything. And we're seeing it in these players. And I'll reiterate, as individuals and as a collective as well. And it's often not really noted from fans because it's these intangibles, you can't really measure it as such. But I think it's huge. Confidence and belief in yourself and trust in each other is so important. And we can never fully measure it, I guess, but you can assume that it's very high in the team based on performances, on results, on everything, really. And I think it's huge. It really is. And Akpom, honestly, is probably the biggest example. He's the poster boy of it because he wasn't expected to be in the team earlier this season. He was training with the under-21s and basically told to find another club. And look at him now, from a pretty low point to the highest point of his career. It just shows that when you are confident and you're in that rich vein of form, then you can take yourself anywhere.
Yeah, and I feel like I have to push like one of the pods that we did before with Dan Abrahams, like the sports psychologist. He works with all of the top clubs, not just in football but in rugby and also outside of sport as well. And like he goes into like the tangible aspects of confidence and how you can see it in games, but also like how can you manage it and how can a team benefit off that. So if you haven't listened to that one, I would recommend you do listen to it because it is a lot of fun. I felt like I learned a lot from that conversation. But I'm just going to come back to like the side in terms of confidence and where players are in terms of like goals scored as well, because I know there's been a reliance on Akpom, and there's always people saying, well, if Akpom gets injured, where would the goals come from? But also like the form of other players. So Akpom's got 9 and 8 at the minute. Archer's got 4 and 6. Ramsey's got 3 and 2, and Forster's got 6 and 12, which again unheard of and unprecedented in being a Middlesbrough fan. But how important, Tom, do you think it is? Like we are continuing to score goals. We're getting them from different areas of the pitch.
I think very important. I was on a Watford podcast earlier this week, giving them a bit of a background on Chris Wilder and the way he plays. There was a Sheffield United fan on there as well, Ollie from I believe it was the United Way. I mentioned that last season the link up on the right hand side between Dijksteel, Jones, and Crooks was key for us, and we were always going down that right hand side, cutting it back, and someone had knocked it in. And Ollie had said that is what they commonly refer to as the goal. And saying that is just the way that United used to play. Chris Wilder spoke about it when he's been doing analysis on Sky and stuff. You want to get down either side, get it across low, and one of the strikers will be in the right place to knock it in. And it works effective against three-man defence particularly well as well. But I felt that like last year we got found out from that, especially in the second half, and other teams were able to defend on it quite well. But the issue for us last season was we had no threat from anywhere else, really. I think you look at the majority of our goals came down the right hand side, and we'll have scored some from down the middle, but it wasn't a very good percentage. You look at Boro this year and what Carrick's been able to do with the team. We've got threats all over the place. We've got, down the left-hand side with Giles, McGree, Ramsey, Archer and Akpom up front. We can score down the right-hand side as well. Still waiting for Daryl Lenihan to score a header. But we're not that predictable as we were last season. We're not just relying on one form of goal scoring. We've got plenty of ways to create our chances, and it's great to see that so many players are chipping in with the goals, and it must be doing wonders for everyone's confidence. But at the same time, the fact that people are saying like, oh, what if Akpom gets injured? Well, then we've got Archer, we've got Ramsey, we've got Force, who can all chip in with that goal scoring now. So it does seem a lot more well balanced this season, and I would definitely say that's a positive. I think, especially going into the last run of games, that we've got plenty of threats, and it's just going to serve us well. I mean, the goals for and goals difference is proven that for us at the moment, which I don't think we've been in this kind of situation looking at the league table for quite a while.
Yeah, I always like looking at the league table. Just like I'm always going, oh, like what if they're split up? Like I'm always looking at Sheffield United's fixtures and going, oh, they could drop points there. And it's a really cool place to be in, isn't it? And I don't think I've been in that for a long time. But not just on the goals, then I know like we're going to come back to Marcus Forss ever so slightly, but like Forss got 6 and 12 by like normal standards. That's great, right? That's great. But you got players in and around the side that are still contributing more than him. Do you think he's just like? I think he's just unfortunate not to be in the 11 at the minute. Do you think it's just like other players are just like that 1% better in certain things?
Yeah, I think people could say that he's been unlucky, but you mentioned normal standards there. I don't think our standards are normal anymore. I think they're incredibly high, and especially in that position as well, where you've got Forss, you've got Ramsey, you've got Isaiah Jones as well, who obviously hasn't had a particularly standout season compared to last, but he's still very much an option there. And then obviously Riley McGree as well, who's played the last game on the right. So there's plenty of options and depth there and quality of depth as well. And I think the standards are so high that if you have a game like the West Brom one, where Boro weren't bad by any stretch, but they just didn't unlock the door, that gives an open opportunity for Carrick to make those changes. And to be fair, I mean, Aaron Ramsey with 3 goals in 2 games, and obviously he played on the left, but the two have been switching, haven't they? Him and McGree between the left and the right. So it's kind of either or, very fluid. You can't really argue with it. But what I will say with Marcus Forss, he's on 8 goals and 4 assists this season. That is a fantastic amount of goal contributions for any player, really. And he's on the same amount of goals as Christian Stuani, our top scorer, got in the promotion season. And I have no doubt that he will exceed that. I have no doubt that he'll get double figures. And Marcus Forss, whether he's starting or whether he's coming off the bench, is a very good option to have, because don't forget, when he was at Brentford, he was that super sub, which can often be quite a backhanded compliment. So I don't really want to demote him to that now, but he will make an impact if he comes off the bench. So it goes back to this conversation about just the strength in depth, the options that we have in the squad, the threat that we've got in different areas. He's been unfortunate, but Ramsey's taken his opportunity, so you can't really begrudge that.
Just before we go to some 2 exciting parts of this podcast, which are probably one point is my favourite part. But I just want to chat about the loan signings of Cameron Archer and Ramsey. Both came from Aston Villa in the January window, and they've just hit the ground running. They've been excellent. But let's look at last year, where we brought in Flo Balogun and Aaron Connolly. I think Balogun was unfortunate, but Connolly was garbage. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that why do you think these loan players have just really clicked in comparison to last year? Because it's very hard for any player to come into a new club in January for 6 months and become very, very good and very high performing. And obviously Ramsey was at Norwich as well, and some fans at Norwich didn't actually rate Ramsey at all. And he's came to a different club in the Championship and just hit the ground running really well. But so Tom, why do you think these loan players this year have really clicked in comparison to the previous year?
Well, I mean, I've not really seen any videos or anything of Cameron Archer and Aaron Ramsey hanging around in Pally Park, so maybe that's one. Maybe that's one thing, but I think it must have helped for them coming into such a close group of players, and one where the confidence is clearly so high and the culture seems good from all the content that's being put out. It just does seem like the players generally get on with each other and there is quite a positive atmosphere around the place. So it must help coming into that type of atmosphere, but also they've been put into the team fairly early on and taking the chances. And I think again that's coming down to it's coming down to their mentality and what they've been able to produce for sure. But definitely there's going to be elements of the coaching aspect to it there as well. It seems a very different setup to last year, and we seem a lot more focused on developing and improving players now, whether that is loan players or our own kind of permanent fixtures in the team. But I think that coaching element of things, it must be really helping and just helping them take their game to another level.
I think it's worth mentioning Aaron Danks as well. Sorry, Johnny. I think obviously having Cameron Archer and Aaron Ramsey come in to a club in which there is a coach there that knows their strengths and weaknesses, where they need to improve, how they can fit into this team. I think that's really important as well. And I think in regards to the question that some loan signings work and some don't, it doesn't mean that certain players are bad, other than Aaron Connolly, who just reeks. He's just a honking player, let's be honest, and always was going to be. I'm sorry to say it.
You know, he's definitely scoring when we play Hull now that both of you have slagged him off here.
Sugar, yeah. When do we play Hull? Yeah, you know what? Write that in the script already, because we know that's going to happen. I still maintain my opinion on Aaron Connolly, but I think with Balogun, it was probably the right player, the wrong time. Not surprised that he's exploded in Ligue 1. James Leakey as well. Don't forget about him. I know he wasn't a January signing, but he was very much a loan signing, and it didn't work for him because I just don't think he fit the style of English football. I always felt like he wanted more time on the ball than he got. And then Spara, I personally think, was played in potentially the wrong position. He came on in a number 10 role. When we were at Barnsley, that awful game with our inflatable saxophone, and you could see Chris Wilder was trying to play him in that more, deeper position, but I just don't think he kind of, his form fell off a cliff, didn't it, Sprout? But yeah, sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't, and thankfully we've struck gold with the signings that we've made, the loan signings that we've made. And yeah, hopefully they can continue to prosper, because they've been fantastic so far.
He's at Panathinaikos now, is Andros Spara, which I didn't know. When you said his name there, then I was like, oh, wow. What is
I was wondering why you made that
Andros
face.
Spara doing right now?
He's got 8 goals and 2 assists in 23 games this season.
What a superstar, eh? What a superstar. But anyway, let's chat about some goals and some knee slides, Dynamo, because there was 2 knee slides on show for us yesterday, and I feel like we just need to critique them because I think they were very, very good.
Yeah, I do as well, actually. The first one from Cameron Archer is, he goes to load his ball. We won't talk about the ball because it seems like he kind of forgets about it. But the slide is very good. There's good length on it. Jacob Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey joins him as well, which I didn't actually realise until I literally put the clips in StreamYard earlier. But Aaron Ramsey gives it a go as well, and yeah, I think it's a good one. Finally, he lands it, because he did a knee slide the last game against Reading for his disallowed goal, and it kind of collapsed. But very good from both of them. I much enjoyed it. That's Cameron Archer's best knee slide today. If I was to rate it out of 10, what do you reckon?
I enjoy that. I feel it's an 8, but I feel like it gets overshadowed by Ramsey there. I feel like Ramsey's got some really good downforce on the knee slide. And so when you have that, just that element of good posture, but then good knee fundamentals there. I think he slided really well and just went through. So I would say an 8.
I would agree.
He needs to work on it a little bit more. But we're getting there, and that's it. It's just progress. Every time, and maybe one time they'll get a 10. But Chuba Akpom, Dana.
Yes. Speaking of posture, this was a very, very good one. The way that it ends, it's Thierry Henry-esque at the very end. There's a snap that Chuba Akpom put on his story where it is very Thierry Henry, the statue outside the Emirates. This was very good. Chuba is very good with his knee slides. His last one against Sheffield United wasn't particularly great, but he is usually very, very good with his knee slides. A really decent length on it. The stance, he knows he's absolutely nailed that, and a little turn towards the Boro fans as well, I think is very good. So, is it his best this season? I think he's had better, but it's still a very, very strong one from Akpom, who is loving the knee slides. The amount of goals he scored this season, the amount of knee slides he's had, but I think that's a very solid one. I'd probably say another 8. Would you agree?
I would go 9.5 here. I'd go 9.5.
Yeah, I'd go 9 on that one. Like,
I agree. Yeah, and Tom, what do you think on the knee slide? Just before I come to my point on it.
I thought it was as close to a kind of perfect knee slide as you can possibly get without it being perfect. I don't know what a perfect knee slide would be.
Marcus Moss against Blackpool.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that to be able to give a 10, but don't know, something just proper stylish about that knee slide. So Defoe's a 9. That
I think if I just see it one more time, Dana, I think if we go like in terms of like knee slide aerodynamics here, and you go with some good downforce, I think he's going into that and going, I'm going to try and keep this simple. I'm going to keep this simple, and good posture. But he goes at the
no
last minute. He goes
porpoising at all there either on the
no
grass.
porpoising. It's
He stops
excellent.
it really well, doesn't he? He
It-
puts the brakes on at the right time, and he leaves a nice little slide in the turf.
I think sometimes when you go for simplicity, it works really well. But he got at the last minute, he just goes, I'm just gonna lean a little bit more to my right, and that gives him the pivot on the turn there, and it's a lovely facing knee slide. And I think with the turn itself, and he's in control of the movement. I think it's a very, very good knee slide. I'm going to give him
This
a
is what people
9.5.
tune into the pod for, isn't it?
Now
Knee
look,
slide analysis.
I reckon we should all get like scorecards, for this.
Oh yes, it's a 10 from Len. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Big fan of that, Tom.
Yeah, well, look, people are going to be like, well, Johnny, I don't agree with that. If you're sat at home and you're watching Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing on Ice, you're going to be going, you know what? I don't think he's pulled it off there, but I think with that knee slide, just that turn, that turn itself, it's hard to do, and he's made it look easy. But the perfect knee slide, it's all about the simplicity, and if you get it right on a wet day, the world's your oyster on a knee slide. The world is your oyster. But in terms of more praise, let's go to the praise and place, because the praise and place is the place we like to give praise to a coach and staff member, a player, a fan. I don't know, a services like Weatherby, and some random stuff, which is just full of praise. Dana Malt, who gets your place in the praise and place this week? Actually, what do you think's a very good service station? Like,
Don't ask me.
Tom, what do you think?
I'm not well versed in that.
I feel like Weatherby's good, but it could be better. Do you know what I mean? Like, I when I'm driving to work sometimes and I'm going past it now, I go, it's good, but it doesn't make me want to stop off. You know what I mean?
I don't know. There's something quite familiar about Weatherby. I've been there that many times. Go to a different service station, it's just not the same. So Weatherby for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you've got a good service station in mind, around like the Leeds area, just let me know, because I wouldn't mind stopping off. Well, actually, no. Temple Green, very good service station. In
What
the
is this
sorry.
podcast turned
Anyway,
into?
sorry. Dana Malt, sorry, praise and place.
Yeah.
Who gets your place in the praise and place this week?
I'm going to praise players for moments, I think, this week. Zach Steffen for the save that he made. I can't remember. It was in the second half. It was about maybe before the third goal, maybe 75 minutes-ish. He made a really good save from Jamie Patterson, where he'd cut inside, he tried to curl one into the bottom corner, and Zach Steffen got a good hand on it. I think that was a really, really important save at that point in the game. And then Ryan Giles' deliveries, the technique behind them is it's unbelievable. The way that he just sets it for himself and then whips it in, or just very deftly places it into the right areas. His technique is honestly something else, and it's so satisfying to watch. And then also maybe a bit of a random one, and people wonder why. I'm going to put Liam Roberts in the praising place, because you'll see, and I don't know if anybody else has clocked this, but I certainly have. Whenever the camera pans on the players when they're celebrating with the fans, Liam Roberts will always be embracing his teammates. Not just the goalkeepers, not just Stefan, not just a goalkeeper union, but he's a very good hype man. And I don't want to dumb Liam Roberts to that, but I think that's really important for team camaraderie, that you've got players that aren't even on the periphery of the team, because let's be honest, Zach Steffen's got the number one gloves and will for the foreseeable barring injury. But I think that's just a little insight into the dressing room, because he's always there, always hyping his teammates up, always looks like he's very happy to be there. He's very happy for his teammates. And I don't want people to discredit that or mock it as such, because I do think that's really important to have everybody involved in that team happy for each other, happy to be there, even though they're not playing minutes, then they're not part of the first team necessarily, or the starting 11 necessarily, but I just like that. I think Liam Roberts is very happy to be here, and he's very happy for his teammates, always embracing them. And I've noticed that, so I wanted to mention it for a few weeks, so I'm going to mention it now.
Yeah, he's picked up the Scott Carson role. But to be fair, when Pep talks about like Scott Carson, he just says like he's so valuable around the training
Yeah,
ground, and he gets people involved and all that kind of stuff. So you do need those type of players as well. But he's also a good
uplifting
goal.
characters.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just a good goal. He's a good goalkeeper as well. Like he's he's no schmuck. Like he's a very very good goalkeeper, and he's been unfortunate not to get maybe a place in the squad this season when he played, and instead of Stefan and when he was injured, gave a good account of himself. Did himself like a world, probably did himself a world of good, but also like he got fans talking about him, and then I think that's always a good thing when you're a goalkeeper as well. But interesting one, Dan. I didn't expect Lee Roberts to be in the present place this week, but he is. Tom Green, who gets your place in the present place this week?
I think I'm going to have to go with both Villalones and go with Cameron Archer and Aaron Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey yesterday was probably one of the best individual performances on the pitch, I think. Like I said earlier, he just seems full of confidence at the moment. He was running at players, got his goal taken really well as well. I think looking at how that goal came about, just such quick reactions to think as soon as that ball ricochets back to him off of the defender, just think, all right, I'm going to turn and just try and stab a shot in like you did there. And there was one point as well, I think it was after the third goal, where he's running at the defence, cuts inside onto his right and just puts it over the bar, and just think that would have been such a great individual goal. So great performance from him yesterday. I just want to see it continue and see him have more and more of an impact on the team leading into the end of the season. And Cameron Archer, I think, does deserve to be in the present place this week and deserves credit. I think the last couple of games, I think especially against Reading, where he didn't score, but he was involved in so much of the build up towards some of the goals, and does such a good job up front. It can go unrecognised if you're just looking at goals and assists. But you need to look kind of beyond the assist to kind of see the impact he's having. So he had another good performance yesterday, but to be able to cap it off with a goal, which unfortunately, when we were watching it, me and my uncle didn't even celebrate it because we were like, oh, he's mile offside there. And then you see the replay and he was like, actually, he was miles onside and just had all the time in the world because Swansea's defence seemed to just forget he was there. But great header from that, taken really well, and glad that he's got himself a goal yesterday.
Yeah, and I was going to mention this earlier when we were about the loan signs, but I got a message off Aston Villa analyst yesterday. Obviously, I know him from when we play football together, and he's in the game and he's at Villa at the minute. And I asked him about Archer and I asked him about Ramsey as well, and he replied saying, "Amazing, we've got the world at the feet. The club absolutely love him. Emery's a big fan of Archer and Ramsey. We've got two diamonds. Take care of them. But they are great. Really rate them." So, and I have paraphrased a little bit as well there on that, but they're massively keen on both of them. So I feel like we're probably not going to get on permanent. But it's obviously it's good to hear stuff like that as well. So like, but he didn't have to message me back saying that. But it was good to catch up. But yeah, anyway, both really talented footballers, and we're very fortunate to have them. But in terms of my present place nomination, I'm going to go for. I think I don't know. It's so hard. I feel like I could just put everyone in it. To be honest, you know what? Everyone, you're all in it. Just everyone.
That's such a cop-out answer.
I know it's a cop-out answer in it. I don't know. Actually, I'll go Paddy McNair. I think because
good shout.
Boro players love playing with a mask on at the moment. They're paying homage to Rey Mysterio being in the Hall of Fame and the WWE, which Tom really enjoyed that. But yeah, I feel like to come back in to the side and to keep playing well, and I was an hour over him in January. I was thinking, do we get rid of Paddy McNair? Can we get a better player in? But he's come back in and he's really surprised me just of how the level of performance he's been playing at. Good ball playing centre half. when he needs to be. I still think centre back is an area that we really need to improve in if we go up next season. But in terms of what he did yesterday, kept things simple, kept just moving. Probably one of the first players in our attacking phase as well. And he just played really, really well, especially with like the facial mask that he's got on as well. So well done, Paddy McNair. You're in the praising place for me. But let's look ahead now to Stoke, because on Tuesday, Boro welcome Alex Neil's Stoke to the Riverside. The Potters have won back-to-back games, including a 5-1 win over the Mackhams. I've got to get that in. So to get some insight, we chatted with Ben from the YYY Files to find out a little bit more about Stoke this season.
Hey up guys, my name's Ben. I'm from Stoke City podcast, the YYY Files, and I'm here to preview our game, Middlesbrough versus Stoke City at the Riverside on Tuesday night. So, Stoke season so far, you could say it's been pretty underwhelming, really. We sacked our manager. I think we were the first this season to do so after 5 games. And to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, Alex Neil definitely in 2022 added very little to Stoke. In fact, you could argue we looked worse. We were terrible at scoring goals. We were terrible at keeping them out at the back, and we were going nowhere. In fact, it looked like we may be in a relegation battle. But he's made signings, and with those signings, we look much more balanced as a team. It looks like they're players that he wants to use as well, and we'll play Alex Neil's style of football, which I'll come on to. And we've had a bit of a resurgence over the last month or so. We're playing some great football. We're scoring so many goals. It must be around 20 goals in the last 4 or 5 games, maybe a bit more, and we're playing pretty well. And for once, I can look at Stoke and look into games like this relatively optimistically, and I can think like that for 2 reasons. One, it feels like Stoke can have anyone on their day, but second, we sort of set up to play against teams who want to come on and attack us. We don't like having the ball. We love playing on the transition, pressing high, and then punishing teams at the back very quickly. We don't do so well when we're 1 goal down and other teams sit back against us. That is still how we are losing games, and we're not able to come back from that. But having said that, if Stoke score first, particularly against a team that loves possession, like a Swansea, for example, we've really shown our class, and defensively we look relatively solid too, despite moving from a 5 at the back to a 4 at the back. I'd say players to watch out for. Josh Laurent has been playing like Ruud Gullit for the last month or so. The introduction of Ben Pearson has really helped him fulfill his box-to-box role, and I'd argue that he's one of the better finishers we have at the club, which is mad for a box-to-box midfielder. You've got Will Smallbone, who's benefiting from the same experience of having the shackles released from him. He's pressing very hard at the pitch, winning balls, and he's finally got some confidence to have some vision, set up chances, and looks like he might score some as well. I'd say those are definitely the 2 players to watch out for, other than Ben Pearson, who, if he plays, because he doesn't play every game, having missed most of this season already through injury, I think, he allows other players to do what they need to do. He sits back, mops up, and if I don't hear Ben Pearson's name in a game, that's great for me, because that shows he's doing his job. He's not a standout player, but he does things you don't really notice, and we've not had a player like that since Glenn Whelan, probably. If I'm going for a score prediction, listen, you guys are on an insane run. You got Chuba Akpom, who was a nobody at the start of the season, and now he's top goal scorer. Michael Carrick's done wonders with you, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did catch Sheffield United. Stoke have been good, but I do think that you guys are going to score first, and when you guys score first, Stoke don't come back from that. I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for Middlesbrough, with the caveat of if Stoke are able to nick one early on, I won't be surprised that, we might be spoiling your promotion party just a little bit. Other than Tuesday, all the best for the rest of the season, and I'll speak to you guys soon.
Cheers for that, Ben. It's a tough one, Tuesday night, but in terms of what they bring, I really like Tyrese Campbell. I think he's probably one of the best championship strikers in there, but he's had so many injuries. It was unfortunate. Lewis Baker as well has got one of the most assists for them this season, but Ben Wilmot and Will Smallbone actually top the charts in terms of highly rated contributions and performances. Before I ask for your thoughts and feelings, guys, I want to hear your Boro knowledge. So last season we beat Stoke 3-1 at the Riverside. But who were the goal scorers for Boro? Does anyone know, Tom?
No. Is the answer to
I
that?
will
I have
come
forgotten
back
about
to it.
that, but I'm gonna guess that Aaron Connolly might have been one of them.
No, Dana?
That's not a surprise.
He's catching some strays. This pod is Connolly. God, I can't even. Crooks.
You're correct.
Oh, I don't know any.
God, this is difficult.
I will
Tav?
come. No, not Tav.
Spara.
Nope.
Damn it. Well, at least I got one.
I'm-
I know the Stoke goal scorer because that was quite an important goal against us that swung our goal difference out of our own favour. So
It was
Can't
Nick Powell
remember.
that scored that one, but
Yeah, Nick
I'm
Powell.
being a bit harsh here because Matt Crook's got 2.
Oh.
And Lewis Baker got an own goal.
Yeah.
So I can't remember the own goal itself, but it happened apparently. Anyway, so let's hear your thoughts on the game then, Dana, because they've been in really good form over the last 2 games, and they are playing quite well. And they're a bit of an anomaly side, Stoke, because I don't know, they've got all the players, just haven't been getting the results, I guess.
Yeah, it's difficult to know what Stoke's going to turn up, to be honest, because me and Tom were talking about it before we started recording, that they will be pretty buoyant after 2 really good results. Firstly against Sunderland 5-1, and then against Blackburn 3-2. So it's difficult to know whether they will be, well, they will be really confident off the back of those 2 games, but can they continue that against us? Ben was talking there about conceding the first goal, don't really have the confidence to get back into the game. But then on the flip side, if they do score, he's confident that they can maybe see it out. I've looked into their away games this season, and the opponent has scored first in 12 out of the 18 games that they have played on their travels. So 60% of their games, they've conceded the first goal away from home. So I think Boro will score first, but as I was saying to Tom before, we haven't drawn in a while. I'm thinking a draw for this one, if I'm being honest. 2-2 for me.
A Desmond for Dana. Tom, what are you going to go for?
I want to go for a very hard-fought 2-0. I do think it's going to be a tough game. I think, I watched the Stoke game on Friday. I thought they played really well up until maybe about the 80th minute, where Blackburn seemed to finally wake up and they got 2 back. And but I mean, they also beat Sunderland 5-1 before that. They're clearly going to be in good spirits going into it. I think what worried me was after the game yesterday, I sent a few tweets where it was like, if we win our next 2 and Sunderland do us a favour on Wednesday, we could be second going into the international break. I'm just like, just don't discount Stoke or Preston. Like, we still need to do our jobs in these games, and Stoke is going to be a difficult one. So I do think it'll be hard fought, but I do think we can get the win on Tuesday night.
I echo what both of you are saying there. I think it's going to be really difficult. I think really, really difficult. These are good sides, instead of the table doesn't lie. I feel like they're in a bit of a false position because with the players that they have, and you just think that it should click, right? But it's very PSG of the Championship, where they've got good budget, good players, just not getting performances in the right games, which is why they are where they are. But weird. They're just a very weird side, Stoke. So I wouldn't surprise if they came to the Riverside and won 3-0. Do you know what I mean? And be like, wow, they were amazing. You know what I mean? It just wouldn't surprise me. But then I'm also not surprised if we win 3-0 and just batter them. Do you know what I mean? So I have no idea where it's going to go. Honestly, I'm a bit worried about this one. But I'm going to go over 1-1 draw. I think 1-1 draw, and I'll take that for now. But if we score first, let's get the 3 points, and hopefully we can send the top 2 come the end of Saturday. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. Listeners and viewers, thank you very much for watching and listen to us as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our podcast providers. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. But for right now, we've had luck catching those Swans then. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Match Day Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.